Welcome everyone to our third session with the Cape Light Compact folks. Can everybody see the screen okay and hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, we're thrilled to have Maggie and Dan here for, as I say, the third time. Our viewership grows each time, or at least the signups do. Hopefully more attendees will show up as we move along here. Also growing are our green amenities and especially our green homes, which now number over 400 thanks to the efforts that folks like you have made. We've added 4 new amenities this year. We announced all this, but in case you missed it, solar panels, heat pumps, kind of a green lawn using non-chemicals basically, lawn, and then bikes for recreation to try to cut down on using gas. So we're glad to see many of you have checked those out. We're also glad to report, and Maggie and Daniel like this, that over 250 of our homes have said they have had an audit by you guys or other Mass Save things. So we urge you all to look at those green amenities again to see if you have some that you haven't checked, or maybe you could be inspired to add more. A lot of you are very close to getting to green home status. That means having 6 or more of the 12 that we offer. It should be easy. We have 400 now, and we're hoping to get 800 by next season. So that's my little commercial for our green initiative. Let me turn this over to Maggie. You'll remember Maggie is the administrator of the Cape Light Compact, which is the Cape and Vineyards subsidiary, the right word? I'm not sure quite what word to use, but of Mass Save, which is a statewide energy resource. Their charter has changed dramatically in the last really year, and she'll reiterate that. She told us about that last winter, but repeat it, Maggie, for those who might not have been here and don't know. And they've been great to come to us now for the third time. So I'm going to turn this over to Maggie and take it away, Maggie.
All right, well, like Dan is setting up the screen. I don't know if you want to put it in a slide mode, that's fine. So you can go to the next slide. So good evening, everyone. As Jeff said, Maggie Downey, nice to be here. Dan and I are going to take turns. I'll start, he'll do the middle, which is all the technical hard stuff, and then I'll end again on our power supply. So I'm going to talk a little bit about who the Cape Light Compact is. Cape Light Compact is a municipal aggregator under Massachusetts general law. We have 3 primary functions: power supply, energy efficiency, and consumer advocacy. We offer, so just date myself for a little bit, way back in 1997, the Massachusetts passed a restructuring act, and the cities and the towns on the Cape and Vineyard got together to form the Cape Light Compact to offer a power supply option on an opt-out basis. For many years, we were the only municipal aggregator. Now there are 159 of our 351 cities and towns in Massachusetts are municipal aggregators, but we are the only group of towns that work collectively, and we're the only aggregator that offers power supply, energy efficiency, and consumer, and advocates for consumers at the GPU level. Next slide. So as I said, we're a joint powers entity, and we're basically the towns. The towns under Mass General laws formed a joint powers entity. It's just like a special purpose district, a fire district, a water district. And we're governed and created by the 15 towns on the Cape and 6 towns on the Vineyard. As I said, we constituted in 2017 as a joint powers entity, but we were established way back in 1997 by the 21 towns. Our offices are located in South Yarmouth and White's Path. We're there 5 days a week. And Mass Save we sponsor Mass Save. So the Cape Light Compact and the other investor-owned utilities that run energy efficiency programs created the brand Mass Save. So we're the sponsor of Mass Save. Go to the next slide. So I'm going to talk about mostly tonight and then end with the power supply energy efficiency programs. So energy efficiency programs, I think if you've heard this, me talk about this before, these are our programs. You can see there in yellow, we pay for them every month on our electric bill, regardless of whether you are a small business, a commercial customer, residential customer, we all pay a portion of our electric bills to fund energy efficiency programs here on the Cape and Vineyard. All of the money that is collected from our ratepayers on the Cape and Vineyard is reinvested in energy efficiency programs on the Cape and Vineyard. Eversource collects the money and then returns it back here to be invested in energy efficiency programs throughout Cape Cod and Martha's Vineyard. Want to go to the next slide? So I think, Jeff alluded to this a little bit. For many years, the Cape Light Compact, we've been administering energy efficiency programs now since 2001. It's been a long time, and we've seen a lot of changes happen. And most recently was the passage of an act creating the next generation roadmap for Massachusetts climate policy, affectionately known as the Climate Act. It was passed in 2021. And it requires, it kind of changed our landscape. We were always about reducing electricity, saving kilowatt hours. You can see changing lights, insulating your home, air sealing, everything was geared towards kilowatt hour reductions. The Climate Act changed that landscape, now requires the Cape Light Compact and the other program administrators, which are utilities that run these programs, to kind of pivot, and we now have greenhouse gas goals. So we are now charged with reducing GHG. So we've pivoted from an energy efficiency plan to a greenhouse, a decarbonization plan, basically. And in a partnership with the Climate Act, the state passed the Clean Energy Climate Plan, CECP. And in order to achieve the goals, so one is a policy, and then the other document, the CECP, is an implementation plan. The CECP sets out a goal of electrifying 1 million homes in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts by 2050. And what that means is removing fossil fuels and electrifying your homes and over 300 square feet of commercial space. And in addition to that, what these policies, two documents set out as at a state level is the greening of our electric grid by pursuing offshore wind, but also by pursuing long-term contracts for Canadian hydro. So as we use more electricity, we are hoping to get that electricity from non-fossil fuel sources. Fossil fuels, specifically combined cycle natural gas, have a role in managing the grid, but the goal is to reduce the amount of fossil fuel fired generation and replace that with renewable generation. Next slide. So this is just a slide that shows you the goals that were set for the state, Cape Light Compact, and then our share of how are we going to achieve those reductions. And it's reductions of carbon dioxide in metric tons. And this year, 3-year plan runs from 2022 through 2024. So we are in the closing on the second year of our 3-year plan. And as you can see, our goals, if we achieve our goals, and we are working towards them, if we achieve our goals, it would be equal to the emissions from over 6,000 homes or removing 7,500 cars from the road for 1 year. Again, very ambitious goals, but very necessary in order to reach the state mandates by 2050. And how are we doing that? I'm going to start this slide and then next 2 slides, and then I'm going to tee it up to Dan. It's through home energy assessments. So what our goal is to make sure as we decarbonize your home, we provide, you sign up either by calling the Cape Light Compact or going through the Mass Save hotline or online, and schedule a home energy assessment where we will give you send out a qualified technician who will look at your entire home and give you a analysis of your historical usage. They'll look at your appliances and identify cost-effective energy efficiency opportunities, including potentially, if you're interested, decarbonizing your home, replacing either oil or a propane or a natural gas system with a heat pump. They'll provide information on those. We have generous incentives. And back during COVID, which is I think when we did the first presentation for you guys, we implemented virtual online HEAs where you can do most of it via your phone if you're not comfortable with something coming into your house. And the key to a home energy assessment, Dan, if you want to go to the next slide, is weatherization. We offer, what is weatherization? It's basically insulation. We offer no-cost air sealing. Air sealing is sealing all of the cracks around windows, doors, and the sill of your house. So that's provided at no cost to all customers. And we offer 75% off the total cost of insulating your home. And if you're either an income eligible, low income, which would be below 60% of the state median income, or moderate income, or you are a renter, we would offer 100% cost of the total weatherization job. And what happens is after you do your home energy assessment, you will get a plan, a written document that says, this is what we recommend. And, if nothing else, if you have done all these things, you will get affirmation that your house is in good shape. So Dan, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about the first heat pumps and the first step in kind of decarbonizing your home.
Thanks, Maggie. And hi, everyone. My name is Dan Schell. I'm a senior analyst at Light Compact. One of my main roles is overseeing our heat pump program, which I'm going to talk about in just a second. I did want to point out two things on this slide, though, that we were just talking about with the WeNeedaVacation team before. And the first is just clarifying the difference between winterization, which I know is important for a lot of folks who are maybe on this call that winterize a seasonal rental. That is different than weatherization, where we're really talking about insulating your home and doing air sealing work. And the other is the word renters on this slide. We know renters maybe mean something to you folks differently if you're doing short-term rentals, but renters here is really a year-round renter who's paying the electric bill. So it sounded like in previous presentations there's maybe some confusion there around those terms, so just wanted to add that clarity there. All right, so Maggie talked a lot about our climate goals and how we're going to meet them, and as far as it goes with space heating, heat pumps is really how we're going to do it. And the goal here is to convert folks who are currently using fossil fuels, whether that's oil, propane, natural gas, furnaces and boilers, and converting those folks to electric heat pumps. And we'll talk a little bit about why that's a better option for folks and why that's a cleaner option when it comes to our environment. So many of you may be wondering, what the heck is a heat pump? I can almost guarantee most of you already have a heat pump in your home. If you have a refrigerator, you have a heat pump. It's the exact same technology, just with some refinements to make it a little more efficient when you go to use it for your home, but it's the same principle. It's using a refrigerant and condensing that refrigerant and using that to extract latent heat in the air, and either extract it like in a refrigerator where you're taking the heat from inside the refrigerator and pushing it outside. But you can also reverse that cycle. So with the heat pump in the summer, we're pulling the heat from inside the home and moving it outside, and then reversing it in the winter, pulling latent heat outside in the outside air and using that refrigerant process to push the heat inside the home. Many folks, if you have a central AC system already in your home, a heat pump is a central AC. It just has one little change, and that's that it has a reversing valve so that it can basically reverse that cooling process to heat your home. So why are these something that you should consider for your home? There's a number of reasons. First off, there are huge incentives that we're going to talk about, both through our rebates as well as tax credits that are available, federal tax credits. They're going to be cheaper to operate if you're heating your home year-round with oil, propane, or electric resistance. There's going to be savings there. You get heating and cooling in one system. So instead of having to worry about a central AC and a natural or a propane furnace, you get just one system that's taking care of both heating and cooling. And then there's a variety of systems that are available for all different applications. So whether you're looking to maybe just heat a new, or not a new, but a section of your home that maybe isn't getting as much heat, that would be a prime opportunity to put in a mini split. If you're looking, you already have central AC and you want to get some efficiency by adding a heat pump to supplement your existing heat, that's another great example of where you would use a heat pump. But we'll talk a little bit more about why that is. And then it's going to also reduce your home's carbon footprint. And that's exactly what you'll see in this graph here. So this is a sample of basically total number of hours at different degrees. It's a little bit confusing with how the chart is set up here, but basically what it's showing you is different total emissions from each different fossil fuel heating or each different heating type over an average winter. So you can see at the top, we have electric resistance heat. So if you have those old baseboard electric systems, and then you've got oil and propane coming in second, you can see there's pretty significant emissions there. Natural gas is a little bit better, but still pretty high. And then way down there, lower is the heat pump. Now, the thing to keep in mind with both electric resistance and the heat pump is that the emissions, as our grid gets greener and greener, as we have more and more renewables come on board and we start to phase out fossil fuel for electricity generation, those graph lines are actually going to continue to decrease. And with the net zero goals that we have, that green line should eventually almost be flat. So by installing a heat pump, you're really getting a greener and greener heating solution compared to the other options here. So this is what everyone always wants to know is, what will you actually pay me to do this? So these are our rebate amounts. I know there's kind of a lot of words here and you may be wondering what each of these means. So we'll walk through these on a few future slides. But essentially the offer is we will pay customers these rebate amounts to displace either partially or fully their existing natural gas, oil, propane, or electric resistance heating. One key thing to note is National Grid, as the local natural gas sponsor, actually oversees all of the gas rebates. So they kind of handle those gas to heat pump conversion offers. But otherwise, they'd be handled by Cape Light, and we're always happy to talk to customers, regardless of what they're heating with, about these options. So for the partial home, you'll notice that it's a per ton. Per ton is basically the capacity of the system. So it's important to note that the average home on the Cape is usually around a 3-ton system. So that would be a $3,750 rebate. But we'll talk about what qualifies an installation as partial here in a second. And then finally, it is important to note that we're really only incentivizing customers to displace an existing heating system. So if it's new construction, or maybe you're thinking about an addition or finishing a basement where there wasn't heat prior, unfortunately, those scenarios aren't eligible for any of these rebates here. We do have a renovations and additions and a new construction pathway that we would definitely recommend customers take a look at. But unfortunately, they're not available for those installations. And the other would be if you already have heat pumps in your home. Unfortunately, these offers aren't available to replace older heat pumps with new heat pumps. So the whole home heat pump, maybe you've heard about the $10,000, the $10,000 rebate that's out there currently. And this is really for customers who are looking to solely heat their home, the entirety of their home, with heat pumps. No longer using the existing system that's in the home, the furnace or the boiler, and just using heat pumps to heat their home. A lot of times we get questions about, well, my contractor told me heat pumps don't work. But I can assure you that the modern heat pumps that are out there do work down to -15 degrees. You can see behind Maggie, she's got a heat pump there, and I know she heats pretty much year round with her heat pump. I heat entirely with heat pumps, and a number of our staff members do as well. So really the systems of today have really come a long way in the last 10 years, and they're certainly capable of meeting the Cape Cod winters that we have here. There's a few things to note about how to actually get the $10,000. It is a high rebate, so there are a number of requirements that go along with it. The first is that we want these heat pumps going into weatherized homes. We don't want them going into a home that you can feel the winter breeze blowing through. So we do require that customers take advantage of the home energy assessment and the weatherization offers that we have, and that they complete any of those weatherization requirements. And as a reminder, we do cover 75 to 100% of those recommendations. There are some ways around that requirement. The first would be if your home was built in the year 2000 or later, your home sort of automatically has checked the weatherization requirement. The other would be if you've already participated in the program, completing weatherization through Cape Light and Mass Save, there's no need for you to do it again, unless you want to go the extra mile and see if anything additional could be added. We certainly would be fine with that. We require that heat pumps have to be sized to meet the entire load of the home. Some folks who are maybe closer to the HVAC world have heard of a manual J load calculation. You should definitely be asking your contractor if the system they're installing, A, if they performed a manual J load calculation, and B, if the system is in line to support that load calculation. Currently, we're allowing customers to just attest that they won't be using the system, the existing system, the furnace or boiler that's there. But starting January 1st of 2024, we will be requiring either the disablement or removal of the existing system, basically guaranteeing that you won't be using that. This next bullet here is really the key piece, I think, for this audience. To access these rebates, we do require that the home's occupied full-time during the winter heating season. Certainly, if you're renting, doing short-term rentals throughout the winter, we would consider that full-time occupancy. But if you are shutting down the home for the winter, unfortunately, you wouldn't be eligible for these rebates here. But the ultimate thing here is just making sure that the goal of the $10,000 is that you're fully displacing your home's heating load, a full heating load with a heat pump. And that's how you would get that $10,000 rebate. So the partial home, we know there are some customers who aren't fully comfortable or maybe want some redundancy in their heating systems. In particular, we see this a lot with natural gas customers, where the cost savings may not quite be there yet. So for those customers, we have our partial home solution. So this is where you basically create a hybrid system. You have your heat pump working with an existing furnace or boiler to basically provide some supplemental heat throughout the winter. So essentially what you do is you have the heat pump running down to, for natural gas and oil customers, down to 30 degrees. And then at that point, it switches over to the boiler or furnace, or for propane customers, it switches over to propane. And the technology that's used to make that switch is called an integrated control. So to require that one of those controls is installed to access these rebates if you're displacing oil, propane, or natural gas. If you're an electric resistance customer, you wouldn't be required to install an integrated control. This rebate can also be used for customers who are maybe looking to just add heat pumps to a portion of their home. We do still require that you add that integrated control with the zone where the heat pumps are being installed. But certainly if you're not looking to do a whole home scenario, this would also sort of be the pathway for you. There are also some parameters around multifamily accessing the whole home rebate, that $10,000 rebate. So there's really one of two criteria to meet. The first is that any building that has 4 units or less in it is eligible for the whole home rebate, and any townhouse, regardless of how many units it's connected to, are also eligible for whole home rebates. If you're in a unit that has 5 or more units and it's not a townhome, unfortunately, you would only be eligible for those partial $1,250 per ton rebates. And for what it's worth, we define a townhouse as a dwelling that extends from the foundation to the roof. So if you had stacked apartments in a 6+ unit building, unfortunately, you would only be eligible for the partial home rebates that we have. We do also want to make sure that the heat pump systems you're installing are good, efficient systems that also work in low temps. So we have what's called the Heat Pump Qualified Product List, or the HPQPL, because we love our acronyms in energy efficiency. So the system does have to be on that qualified product list. And we do now require that the heat pump is installed by a MassSafe certified heat pump installer network contractor. So you do have to use someone on that list. I think at this point, we're close to having 1,500 contractors on there. So there's really no shortage of finding someone who's on that list. And that just ensures that they're familiar with our program, with what the requirements are. And if they're not familiar, at least can get an answer for you. So this is just a reminder, if you're seeking whole home, you do have to complete the weatherization to be eligible if you haven't already done that. And then if you're looking to do partial, we still want you to weatherize. It's not a requirement, but we will give you a $500 bonus if you have weatherization recommendations from an assessment in the same year that you're installing the heat pumps, and you complete those weatherization requirements prior to the heat pump install. And you may recall in the slide where I displayed the rebate amounts, we do offer a few different types of heat pumps. Air source systems are certainly the most popular. Folks are probably familiar with a central heat pump, which is, like I said, just a central AC that has that reversing valve so that it can also provide heat. Or mini splits. A lot of folks, exactly like Maggie has on her wall, are familiar with the wall-mounted duct units. I've shown a few other pictures of different models that are out there. You can now get ceiling cassettes that kind of drop into the ceiling. There's also the low radiator. There was a photo of one earlier. But these systems don't typically have ductwork and are really just using a fan to blow over a coil that's mounted somewhere on the wall or in the ceiling. Ground source heat pump systems. So unlike the air source where they're extracting that heat from outside and bringing it in, they're using basically ground wells to extract heat that's latent in the ground. So exactly like the name says, they're extracting the heat from the ground. These systems are typically a good bit more expensive than an air source system because you're drilling that ground system, but they are also the most efficient way to heat your home. And the reason being that the temperature difference from the ground to the air, which inside you're typically trying to get to 70 degrees is usually only 20 degrees compared to if it's 10 degrees outside and you're trying to get to 70 degrees, you're trying to make up a 60-degree temperature difference. So some things to keep in mind there. And then a lot of times we hear from customers who currently have a boiler and a hydronic radiator system in their home, and is there a swap they can just do to put in a heat pump? There is such a thing, and it's called an air-to-water heat pump. These are still a fairly new, they're not a new technology, but there's not a lot of models out there that currently exist. So we see very few of these. I'm only aware of one or two that have come through our program since we've been offering them. But they are out there if folks are really committed to staying with a hydronic system and really like their radiator system. The other difficulty in these systems is that you don't get the instant benefit of cooling. You do have to add an additional coil and ductwork to take advantage of the cooling that you can get from that system. So not only can you get rebates through us at Light Compact, but there is also, as part of the Inflation Reduction Act, there is a 30% tax credit on heat pumps up to $2,000. This is just like any other tax credit, something that's applied at the time of filing. Unfortunately, our list of qualified products doesn't match up perfectly with the systems that are eligible for tax credits, but they generally do. I just always make sure or recommend to customers to make sure they're checking both of those lists. And of course, we're not tax professionals, so if you're going for that, do so at your own risk. Maybe not at your own risk, but it's not tax advice, so. All right, so that was all about space heating. We're going to transition very quickly and very briefly to water heating. So not only can you take a heat pump and pull air from outside and bring it inside to heat your home, but you can also pull that heat from outside or from inside your home, use a heat pump and push that into a storage water tank. So that's basically what a heat pump water heater is. It's going to look a lot similar to a standard electric tank, but instead of using an electric resistance coil that's not very efficient and sometimes a little expensive to operate, these can get up to being anywhere from 300 to 500% efficient, meaning the energy in is multiplied by 3 or 5 times with the heating capacity that you're getting out of these systems. So they really are super efficient. I think folks may or may not be aware, but water heating is the second biggest expense when it comes to energy in the home. So these are really great systems to install. There are some parameters around kind of when an installation would be good. So if you were to use this to replace a traditional natural gas storage water tank, you would need to run, you know, a 220 volt line to power this. There are some 120 volts that you can just plug into a regular wall outlet as well. But you do also want to be cognizant, because this is pulling heat from the outside air, you do need some amount of space. They usually recommend 1,000 cubic feet of air for that to be able to pull heat from to operate efficiently. And so we do offer this rebate's a little bit different. Unlike the other rebates, this isn't something that you would apply for on the back end after you've installed the system. This is what we call an instant rebate. So your contractor would go and purchase this from a participating distributor. They would give them an instant $750 discount for purchasing a heat pump water heater instead of a traditional water heater, and then your contractor would pass that through to you on the bill. You can also access that same rebate instantly. If you go online to our website or to the MassSave website, you can find a link to basically download a coupon and order through Lowe's or Home Depot online or in store for these systems as well. This 3.3 UEF is the uniform energy factor. That is the base efficiency that we require for these systems, which is honestly a pretty low UEF comparatively to how efficient some of these systems now are, and basically what the base is we're seeing out there for these. And you do need to be replacing oil, propane, natural gas, or an electric resistance tank to be eligible for this. So as Maggie's mentioned, with some of the charter and where we're headed with energy efficiency and decarbonization, we are in the phase of this current 3-year plan phasing out our fossil fuel rebates. That's both for space and water heating rebates, and that would cover oil, propane, and natural gas systems. So I've included the dates here for basically the deadlines to access any of the fossil fuel equipment rebates that I'm going to talk about here on the next slides. But the big 3 to keep in mind is if you're looking to use a heat loan, which we'll talk a little bit about what that is, we require that you submit for that by April 30th. The last day to install equipment that you're seeking a rebate on for fossil fuel equipment is August 31st, and then you would have to apply for that rebate by September 30th. And all these are in 2024. So we do still have propane and oil space heating rebates. This is a bit of a confusing chart, but I'll try and break down. We do still have oil furnace rebates. We unfortunately no longer have oil boiler rebates. There's just not a big enough disparity between low efficiency and high efficiency in those systems. So we don't have a rebate for those anymore. And then for propane systems, we offer a number, your standard furnace and boiler, and then what folks often refer to as combi systems, where you're getting both a boiler and a furnace with on-demand hot water. Tier 1 rebates would be for customers who already had what's called a condensing system. Typically, the easiest way to tell is if you have PVC venting as opposed to a traditional draft vent for your system. Because you already have a fairly efficient, usually if you have a condensing system, it means it's a fairly efficient system. The rebates are a little bit smaller for those customers. And then we do have higher rebates for customers who don't have condensing systems. We do require that if you're pursuing a tier 2 rebate, that you reach out to us just so that we can confirm that you have a non-condensing system. And then we do also have what are called enhanced rebates. These are for our moderate income customers. So we try to offer a little bit more to get those customers to take advantage of these offers. So these would be customers that fall in between 60 and 80% of the state median income. And if you think you may qualify for that, we certainly recommend that you reach out to us to do that income qualification to access these rebates. Generally the same thing on the natural gas side. These will be the 2024 rebate amounts, again, phasing out in the fall next year altogether. Same deal. There's a tier 1 for customers doing condensing to condensing systems, and tier 2 for those going from non-condensing to condensing, as well as the moderate income rebates here all the way on the right. And then for water heating, there's a variety of solutions here based on your fuel type. Indirect water heaters are what you typically see sort of tacked on to an existing boiler, basically as a buffer tank to store your water. And then the high efficiency on-demand tankless water heater systems for natural gas and propane customers as well. So these are the 2024 rebate amounts. If you happen to get one of these systems in 2023, the rebate amount is a little bit higher than this, but again, these will be phasing out next fall. And then we do have a handful of rebates on different appliances and products. We do have programmable and smart thermostats. So if you still have an old school style thermostat where it's really kind of just a temperature and on and off, you can opt to upgrade to one of these systems, take advantage of scheduling. The smart thermostats, there's models out there that can kind of learn your patterns and learn when you're going to be home and do some really cool things with sort of geolocating when you're home and when you're not, and taking advantage of those energy savings you can get through that. With that $100 rebate, there's a lot out there that you can get for virtually no cost at this point. We also run promotions on our online marketplace, which I'll talk about here in a second, where you can get paired basically manufacturer discounts with our discount or our rebate to get these for like $9.99 when typically they'd be anywhere from $100 to $200. And then on Energy Star certified appliances, we do have some smaller rebate amounts for dehumidifiers, an electric dryer. One, in addition to an electric dryer, we're also, as you've maybe picked up, we really like heat pumps. So another thing we're seeing now is heat pumps being added to dryers to make them even more efficient, about 3 times as efficient as a traditional electric dryer. So that's a new offer that's going to be coming soon that's not out there yet, but keep your eyes peeled for that if you're looking to upgrade. And then for window ACs, room air cleaners or purifiers, there's $40 rebates for those. And then if you are upgrading your dehumidifier, you probably are wondering, what do I do with my old dehumidifier? We do host dehumidifier turn-in events throughout the summer. We usually have 5 or 6 across the Cape and the Vineyard. So we'll give you another $30 to turn in an old one there as well. And then just a quick note on the clothes washers. If you've currently got a really old, inefficient top loader with an agitator in it, we will give you $150 to upgrade that to an Energy Star model as well. But again, this does require what we call pre-verification, either through the home energy assessment or a virtual special visit. All right, and then a few more, and I think we're just about wrapping up here. A few other products that we do offer, and these are all new as part of this current 3-year plan. Windows, so if you have single pane windows, we'll give you $75 per window to upgrade to triple pane Energy Star certified windows. You do have to complete weatherization and have a home energy assessment just to confirm the number of windows that are single pane to be eligible for this. But it's certainly, if you're looking to go triple pane, worth getting that $75 per window. And then, like we've been talking about decarbonizing, we want you to decarbonize your space heating, your water heating. We also want you to decarbonize your lawn care. So we've got rebates on lawnmowers, leaf blowers, string trimmers, chainsaws. All of these are battery operated equipment. And you can access those rebates as well. And then our last decarbonization offer is on induction stoves. So if you currently have a propane or a natural gas stove, I'm not sure if anyone's been keeping up with public health news about the dangers of having those systems in your home, especially if you have young children, and the link between that and childhood asthma. But we'll also give you $500 if you are currently using a propane or gas stove to transition to an induction stove to decarbonize your home. Again, we do ask that you pre-verify for that rebate through the home energy assessment or special virtual home visit, where we really just hop on, it's basically FaceTime, and you show us that you have a gas stove just to confirm rebate eligibility. And then just a few more slides here. In addition to all those offers, we do also offer a program called Connected Solutions. The whole point of our Connected Solutions offerings are to basically curtail electric use during periods of peak demand on the grid. That peak demand is pretty much always in the summer on the hottest days as air conditioning use ramps up. So we have two offers for customers to participate and help reduce peak demand on the grid during the summer. The first is, in addition to paying you to install a smart thermostat, we'll also pay you to allow us to control that thermostat throughout the summer. Essentially, up to 15 times throughout the summer when it's really hot out, you're basically authorizing us to basically set your AC up, setting it up 4 degrees from where it was at for 3 hours. We do also pre-cool the home, so it's almost barely noticeable that you're even enrolled in the program. And we'll give you, this is actually now $50 instead of $25 to enroll your thermostat, and then we'll pay you $20 annually to stay enrolled. On top of that, if you're interested in getting batteries, maybe a Tesla Powerwall is something you've been considering for your home. We do also have a battery program that's out there. The incentive is, it's not an upfront incentive. It's paid basically annually for allowing us to discharge that battery, and it's based on the average discharge of the battery back to the grid. On average, we see if you were to install one Tesla Powerwall and it participated in all of our events, that incentive can range anywhere from $700 to $1,000 a year. And we do also offer zero interest financing to purchase the battery upfront. And that financing is available through the zero interest Mass Save Heat loan. So obviously, like any other loan, a customer has to qualify for the loan through one of our local lenders. But we do cover basically all the interest payments on those loans. So you get a zero interest loan to make many, if not almost all of the improvements that we've talked about. So this could be to take advantage of that 25% copay. Remember, we cover 75% for most customers, 75% on the insulation and duct improvements for your home. So you could finance that other 25% through the heat loan. Those triple pane Energy Star certified windows that we talked about, hot water systems, heating systems, whether that's boilers, furnaces, or heat pumps, and then the residential batteries that we just talked about as well. And we do have a few other programs here as well that we're not going to do a deep dive just because both for time, we put a lot of information in here already. And also, I think for the audience we have, but we're certainly happy to follow up with folks on any of these programs here. But we do offer our income eligible program where we pretty much cover 100% for weatherization, HVAC, qualified HVAC upgrades, appliance upgrades. And this is for customers making 60% or less of state median income. New construction will basically pay customers to build to a certain level above code. We do also have an all-electric new construction offer to incentivize people not to install fossil fuels in new homes. If you're looking to do a renovation or an addition, we really take a holistic look at the energy consumption improvements that can be made during that process and pay an incentive on that. And then for our businesses, we want to make sure they're taken care of as well. So we have lots of commercial programs that are kind of a counter to everything we've talked about here, whether it's for insulation, food service equipment for restaurants, lighting, HVAC equipment. It's all out there for our commercial customers as well. So I think from there, we're going to kick it back over to Maggie, and we're going to talk a little bit. We've talked a lot about energy efficiency, and we're going to jump back to talking about power supply, which is one of the three sort of pillars of what we do.
Thanks, Dan. Great job. And I know there's a bunch of questions in the chat that we'll get to after this. So I just want to remind everybody that one of the main objectives of the Cape Light Compact is to negotiate a power supply contract for electricity supply for the electric ratepayers on Cape Cod and Martha's Vineyard, which we have done. And our power supply option is 100% renewable. It is a competitive rate. And when I mean renewable is we take all of the electricity, the load, your kilowatt hours, and we match that with renewable energy certificates. So for every electron that is used, we go out and buy a renewable energy certificate, which is it's a financial transaction. You're not getting green electrons. The only way you're going to get green electrons is if you have solar panels or generation behind the meter. You know, electrons follow the path of least resistance. So you're getting whatever is closer to our generation source. Next slide. The next slide is just going to show if you say, how do I know if I'm the Cape Light Compact's power supply? You would see on your electric bill on number C, it would say your electricity supplier, NextEra Energy Services. That's who the Cape Light Compact has selected through a competitive bid process, and they will be our competitive supplier through 2026. Go to the next slide. So we offer 3 options. Our basic offering is 100% renewable. Then we offer 2 local renewable products. They're premium products. They're a higher price, and we're buying RECs from local sources. So could be any of your neighbors that have solar panels on their roof. We're buying their RECs. All of the landfills that have solar panels in Eastham, Barnstable Airport, we're purchasing those RECs, many of our schools, and those are the 2 products for the CLC Local Green. Again, all supporting and encouraging the local development of renewable energy, whereas 100% renewable are national RECs. Just power supply slide, just look, this is our prices. These rates are getting ready to go change again in December. Our rates are lower than Eversource, basically the utility that also provides basic service. There are competitive suppliers out there that you can choose from. We always encourage you, if you have the time and the interest, to check the market. But again, markets change, and they change frequently. So if you're going to look and be in the market, just make sure that you're checking your terms and conditions and read your contract very carefully, so that your price is actually the price and that there are no pass-through charges that you weren't aware of. Next slide. So as I said, we are the default supplier for all new electric accounts. Under Mass General Law, you are included in the Cape Light Compact supply program unless you affirmatively opt out. So if you just bought a home, you're automatically put on the Cape Light Compact's rate. We send you a nice opt-out notice to inform you of that, and you have a choice to either stay or select another supplier. It says 65% of the time. There's actually a nice graph on our website. It's almost closer to 85% of the time we have been below the utility's basic service price. We are 100% renewable and have choices for you. Our prices change every 6 months. We have our contract on our website and lots of information on how to select a supplier. Just talk a little bit about markets. So rates are going to be going up again this winter. We are facing, as long as the war in Ukraine continues to play out, what is happening and what's driving our prices up in the winter is most of our electricity in New England is generated from natural gas, combined cycle natural gas. And in New England, at the Everett terminal, we are receiving LNG, liquefied natural gas, to run those plants, produce electricity, and heat your homes. By law, natural gas has to go to heating homes before it goes to producing electricity. So that is why we need to import LNG, liquid natural gas, to generate electricity in the winter when you've got 2 peaks occurring. And because of the war and the ban on gas from Russia, our liquid natural gas is heading towards Europe, and we are competing and paying overseas prices for the natural gas that is actually produced and generated it's a market. It's a free market, and they go where they get the best price. So that is what's driving our price. Also, we are delayed in offshore wind and bringing in other sources of Canadian hydro down. So it's kind of a collection of the worst of everything happening right now. That's what's driving winter prices up here in New England. Next slide. So that sums it up. Got great. Contact us, give us a call. As I said, our offices are right here in South Yarmouth. If you have questions, we're always happy to chat. And if we don't know the answer, we'll do the best we can to find out an answer for you. So Jeff, I can turn it back over to you, and we can take questions.
Oh, Jeff, you're muted.
I'm muted. Yep, I got to unmute myself before I start yakking. Thank you both. That was excellent as always. I know when I've heard this, I always have questions in my head about what exactly the implications of some of this conversation is. I would treat this as kind of an overview, and the way to get the next step is two things. I find their website is excellent, and it's constantly changing with all the new information and cool new incentives that are coming through the government. And Maura Healey's administration is even more aggressive than Charlie's was, and he did a darn good job to get the roadmap bill in place. So you can expect changes to be good, changes for the good, for the most part, to be inevitable. The price of energy notwithstanding, from Maggie's final last little thing there on the war. The other source is to get an audit, and I think I said, did I say before that 250 plus of you have already done that, which is, or at least have told us that on your homeowner center, which is great. So I'm sure more of you have done that, but get the audit and they'll explain. The people that come out to talk to you will do the assessment, and then they'll walk you through all the options. Carrie, can you take it away with the chat?
Yeah, so we have a few questions that came in. Lana wanted to know, I think basically what sums up her question is, what temperature can mini splits be used at? How low? And then can mini splits be connected to a smartphone so you can remotely adjust the temperatures?
Yes. So it totally depends on what kind of mini splits you have installed. There certainly are models out there that are not what we call cold climate rated. Everything that's on our qualified product list is cold climate rated. But if it looks like, based on the question, if you currently have splits installed and you've been told not to use them for cold climate, you'd have to investigate the ratings on the system to be sure how low they could actually go. I will say there is still a lot of contractor misinformation and maybe even like hysteria around heat pumps, where I think they have a fear of telling customers that they won't work in low temps when oftentimes they will, but it would totally depend on the model. And then some splits, it totally depends on how you have them set up. There are models that come, I know Mitsubishi's is called the Kumo Cloud, is their sort of Wi-Fi proprietary technology so that you can control it from an app on your phone. But there are other third party that basically are controllable via Wi-Fi but send an IR signal. Some of the models that are out there are called Sensibo is one, the Flare Puck. So even if it doesn't have that technology embedded, you can add one of those thermostats on there to be able to control it from your phone or anywhere you have Wi-Fi connectivity.
Great, thanks. And then Shannon asked, during a power outage, a heat pump won't work, but a propane furnace would work. Just curious about that.
No, so I think if anyone goes in their basement right now and takes a look at their furnace or boiler, you'll notice there are electric components that are needed to run your thermostat that controls that system is run off electricity. So typically, no, those systems wouldn't work.
Don't work.
Yeah.
And that's the same with natural gas too. Many natural gas also require an electric start. Is that correct, Dan?
Yeah. Yep.
And if those of you remember, we haven't had a power outage in the winter since winter storm Nemo. And that took, I don't know, for those of you that remember, that we were out for a couple of days Cape wide, where they had to bring down the entire grid of Cape Cod and start it up slowly. We now have a battery in the outer Cape in Provincetown, so there's been some significant grid improvements that will work to work around that. But and the same thing if you install, that's why batteries, when paired with, same thing if you have solar. If you have a solar PV on your roof that is not paired with the battery, when the grid goes down, you just have a bunch of expensive glass on your roof. So looking at batteries are and investing in them, it's why they're included in the heat loan as an eligible measure as well.
Great, thank you. Dee wants to know, they keep their house heated during the winter, and they visit 1 week a month in the winter. It is their second home, and it is rented to short-term rentals in the summer months. Would this qualify for the $10,000 rebate or that program?
Yeah, so unfortunately, it probably not. The reason being, we really are looking for full-time residency. Just to explain the reasoning behind that, everything that we do, we basically report savings up to the state, and we're getting the energy efficiency dollars to do what we're saying we're going to do. And so all those savings that we're claiming are predicated on basically a full winter heating load, which we're likely not getting if the home's not occupied full time.
Okay, and Gail's question is about that same program. Will that be available in 2024, the $10,000 rebate?
Yep. Yeah, the only thing that's changing for that $10,000 is that we are now going to be requiring the removal or disablement of the fossil fuel systems.
But not if they're not a fossil fuels used to heat the water or heat your stove, used for stove or whatever. Is that correct?
Yeah, the stove's not an issue. We'd still certainly encourage, switching to an induction stove, but recognizing not everyone can make 3 major home renovations at once. That's not an issue. And really that would be for customers with indirect water tanks being fed off a boiler.
Yep, got it.
That's pretty much all the questions. There is just one comment that someone's electrician and HVAC company told them not to use a heat pump. But I guess you already kind of touched on that, Dan, that sometimes contractors say not to use it, but did you want to comment further on that?
Yeah. Just one other thing I would add, and I think part of this is coming from right now, natural gas as a heating fuel is cheaper to use than if you were even to use a heat pump to heat your home. And so until we see a shift in those prices, and as Maggie mentioned, we've continued to see high winter pricing due to shortages of liquid natural gas, the economics aren't there. So generally that contractor is giving good advice. If it's a gas customer, they want you to be saving money. If you're heating with propane, oil, or electric resistance, it doesn't make financial sense to continue to use those systems, and it makes 100% sense to go to a heat pump. A lot of times their concern, as heat pumps have become new, a lot of boiler and furnace technology is quickly and easily interchangeable if something breaks down. And there was fear, in particular, a year or two ago when we were having a lot of supply chain issues about having parts on hand to make those repairs in an emergency. But certainly there's a lot of good solutions out there now with ways around that. And we've seen contractors trying to reinforce, what's the word I'm looking for? Duplicity in their systems, either through wood stoves or having multiple outdoor condensers, as opposed to sort of one condenser with multiple units coming off of it, indoor units, to make sure you have some sort of redundancy. That's the word I was looking for, redundancy between the systems. So if one condenser does go down, you still have at least some level of heat in the home. But yeah, there's certainly always going to be those contractors that want to sell you two systems, a central AC and a furnace, as opposed to one system. It's two systems they can maintain. So that's my 2 cents on it.
All right, that is all from the chat. I'll pass it back to you, Jeff.
Wasn't there? Can non-resident, yeah, Elizabeth asked, and this, we've had this before. Can non-residents, non-Massachusetts residents take advantage of this?
Yes, as long as you own as long as you are the owner of the home and you have an electric account or a natural gas account.
Even if
you're
you,
not,
even
if
if
your
you
house-
live in, go ahead.
if you have a home in Massachusetts, even if it's not your primary residence, and you have an electric bill or a natural gas account, you can participate in this program. If you don't have a home in Massachusetts and you're just, listening into tonight's session, the answer would be no. So I'm not really sure what where the house is that they're asking
No,
about.
it's here, and that applies to people who live in Paris too, Elizabeth, by the way. So I know that's where she lives. This also applies. I mean, we're obviously talking to these guys from Cape Light Compact, but if you don't have a house on the Cape and you're listening in and you live in Worcester or Williamstown or Rockport, this applies. This is a Massachusetts-wide set of incentives. Cape Light Compact is our local provider, if you will. So just
One exception to that, Jeff, is if you're in a municipal light plant territory and aren't served by one of the sponsors of Mass Save, unfortunately, there's a whole different set of things.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
But yeah, just putting that clarification out there.
Are there other questions that we didn't get answered? Is there anything just take another look at the.
2 more just came in the chat. Someone bought dehumidifiers today. Can they still get the $30 rebate?
Yep, you can go online to masssave.com/savings, and that'll take you right to our rebate portal. You just input your information and add your receipt there, and you can apply for those. There is a limit of 2 on that rebate. But yep.
Okay, and then Dee asked what the difference between no cost air sealing and insulation upgrades is.
So I talked about that a little bit. And the insulation is actually, whether it's cellulose blown in or the old-fashioned rolls, that's insulation. Air sealing is going around caulking windows, doors, and maybe the sill of your foundation. So that's air sealing, and insulation is insulation. Does that make sense, Dee?
Hi, I don't see a way. Can I ask a question? I don't have a way to, I'm on my phone. I don't think I haven't seen a way to type in a question.
Go ahead, Christine.
I did recently have an energy assessment done, and obviously it's going to, all the forms that you get take, the forms all say expires at the end of this year. I'm assuming there's a way to pretty easily roll that over. Do I just go to Cape Light Compact, or I'm not sure how to have that extended. Obviously, we're not going to get all this work done in 2023, but all those, rebates have expiration dates.
Yeah, so for any of the rebates, so the one caveat I'll give is for the weatherization contract, but all the other rebates, anything you get done in 2023 for HVAC or water heating, you just have to apply by the end of February. And then pretty much everything that's available this year is going to be available next year. You'll just want to confirm there are some efficiency changes that are going to be coming. So you'll just want to make sure if you're installing stuff in 2023 that it meets the efficiency requirements. But generally speaking, the anything that's available currently is going to be available in early next year. The one thing that's going to be changing is those fossil fuel system phase out. That's going to be happening in the fall in 2020.
Right.
Yep.
I understand that, most of these incentives, these rebates and tax, all that stuff is, if they're going through, for 2035 or whatever, these are long term. Just as far as when the energy assessment was done, the audit was done, they actually, they fill out the contracts, they print stuff out. So I'm assuming, do I go to my, the tech who came out and say, could you print me an updated one for this year? Or what's the best way just to make sure that we've got the updated paperwork before we proceed to file?
Yeah, so if it's for weatherization, you would definitely want to reach out to the tech. If it's for anything else, HVAC equipment, water heating products, anything like that, you can always find the most recent forms on either the Cape Light website or masssave.com/rebates, and that'll take you right to whatever the current form is.
Okay, fine, great, thank you.
I
good-
just see
good.
another question came in about installers for heat pumps. Dan listed there are over several 1,500 installers that are on what we call our H-pin list. If you go to the Cape Light Compact's website or Mass Save, you can find heat pump installers.
This was for heat pump water heater.
Oh, water heater.
Yeah, so we actually just direct for heat pump water heater to the Energy Star installer list. But if you visit the Mass Save website and go to the heat pump water heater page, there's a link on there that'll take you to it if you can't find it. If you also just Google Energy Star heat pump installers and put in your zip code, it'll give you a list of state installers.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
That help? Yeah,
no problem.
great. Anything else?
Another question?
Well, wow. Once again, just so much wonderful information. Thank you, participants, for participating. And obviously, thank you so much to Maggie and Dan for taking us through this really, really important stuff to try to electrify the state. We all know, we all follow or probably follow the ups and downs of Vineyard Wind and the other wind things and wish all that could happen faster. So the grid that we're buying from was get greener and greener, but I think it's inevitable it will. It's just taking time. And so we'll be patient, and eventually we'll have a nice clean grid and all this cool electrification stuff that's clean as can be. That's the hope. That's the vision. Try to help save the little planet. Dee, did you have something else to say? You popped up onto the screen.
Yeah, I did. We had a home energy assessment, and when he was there, he didn't mention the no cost air sealing. So I was wondering who I contact about that. Do I get back to the contact I had then?
Did you look at the report that he did? It's probably in
Yeah.
the report that he did. It would be mentioned there, I would think.
Yeah, I looked at the report. They're coming out to do the insulation work like in November. But that's different than air sealing, right?
Yes,
Yes,
it is. Dee, so there's two ways. Typically, if it was not mentioned, they didn't see it that you needed air sealing in your house. They wouldn't, the write-up wouldn't recommend something that wasn't needed. But if you have any questions, the best thing to do is to call the person that gave you the report and ask them specifically about that question. I don't know who did the home energy assessment, whether it was Rise Engineering through us or it was
Yeah, it was Rise Engineering. Okay, thanks. That's what I'll do. I'll get back to them.
Great.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I got a quick question again.
Good, go for it.
The dehumidifier turn in, so that where does that happen? So you're saying if you replace a dehumidifier with an Energy Star one, is this a turn in incentive, or am I misreading that?
Yep, and you don't even have to replace it. It can just be it does have to be working, but if it's just an old unit you're looking to get rid of, or if you're looking to upgrade, yep, it's $30. We typically host them at locations all over the Cape and the Vineyard. It's usually at Crane Appliance in Orleans and Falmouth, Mid-Cape Home Centers in Dennis, Cam Appliance in Hyannis. I feel like I'm missing another one, and then Crane Appliance in Vineyard Haven.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Okay, well, with that, I think we may have gotten everyone's questions answered, which is great. And until next time, Maggie, we may just have to have you keep coming back. This is great.
Well, thank you very much. You had great questions and we're happy to talk to everybody.
Well, we appreciate it. Thanks so much, everybody, for coming. We'll see you next time.
Have a good evening.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone.